Welcome to Conversations with Cox and Kielseth, and to be more specific, that is filmmaker Alex Cox and myself, film curator Pablo Kielseth. Alex will join us by phone from his home in Oregon, while I sneak away from my office to call him from one of the projection booths used by the International Film Series, which has been screening foreign and independent movies at CU Boulder since 1941. We will keep our chats to about 20 minutes as we discuss whatever movie-related topics grab our fancy. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, action.
Right here, ready?
Yes.
The sound of a can of Norse Gold Hazy India Pale Ale popping open. That means we're recording. Yes.
Ah! Well, here I have a glass of porter, you'll be sorry to hear, from the Bricktown Brewery in Medford, Oregon.
All right, well, now I have to ask, why'd you go for a porter instead of a good, solid Imperial Stout?
They have an Imperial Stout, but it's 10% proof. And I thought a gentleman wouldn't ask to fill his growler with 10% proof beer. I don't.
Oh, yeah, they might not even do that, too. That's true. Mm-hmm. All right, well, you ready? Talk
yes,
movies?
Ready to go.
So we are... As I'm going through the Moviedrome list, we've entered the Moviedrome year of 1989. And it starts with The Man with X-Ray Eyes.
Oh, yes.
And I know that you actually have some very strong feelings, very positive feelings about Roger Corman.
Oh, I love Roger Corman. I think he's wonderful. I mean, look at all the people to whom he gave their start in the business.
Sure.
Everybody of a certain generation. Francis Coppola, Scorsese, De Palma, Nicholson.
Yeah.
I mean, they all came from the stable of Monty Hellman, from the stable of Roger Corman. So we must thank Roger very much for making so many good films and introducing so many great people to the cinema, you know?
Yeah, and then later he was also a distributor of some wonderful foreign movies, but I think what's interesting is that you definitely put him in the constellation, like when we talk about great American independent filmmakers, usually certain cinephiles will start out with people like Cassavetes or, you know, but I remember you very, pointedly said that you thought Roger Corman deserved to be at the top.
Or up there. I mean, Orson Welles. You know, you can't really be better than Orson Welles, I suppose. But I mean, I think Orson Welles and Cassavetes and Corman all deserve high places in that pantheon, an imaginary pantheon.
Now,
I read something very funny about the man with X-ray eyes in the autobiography of Harry Harrison, the science fiction writer.
Oh, what was that?
Because he was attending some festival, and it was the first time that they were going to give an award to a movie as well as to books and short stories for science fiction. And so he'd attended the screening. He and Brian Aldiss had attended the screening of The Man with X-Ray Eyes, which they just thought was totally risible and a hoot. And they were kind of like scoffing and snorting and shouting derision all the way through the screening. And then at the end of the screening, the lights come up and they realize that sitting right behind them are Roger Corman and Ray Milland. You know, it's slink out like these bad schoolboys, you know, to the bar.
I've actually, I've learned my lesson because I go to, I attend several film festivals regularly, and when I was green and still a young man, I had the bad habit of speaking very bluntly about my opinion of the movies that I had just seen. And on more than one occasion, the director was right behind me as I was spouting off endlessly about how much I didn't care for the film. And, so I've learned to be a little bit more delicate when leaving theaters at film festivals. Yeah. Now you've actually got some pretty great stories about as a director who is being feted at these festivals. You've gone to all kinds of festivals, both big and small, and large and famous, and some that are off the beaten track. Do you have some favorite festival stories?
The best festival story I have is when Todd and I went to the Festival of Ibero-American Film in in Huelva, in the south of Spain.
Okay.
And they were going to show Highway Patrolman, and I went in there and said to the organizers, I imagine you want me to do a Q&A after the show, so let me know what time to be there. They go, oh, no, don't worry, just enjoy your time in Huelva, And I go, well, you probably want to do like a press thing or something, or have me do like talk about the film beforehand, or do an interview or something maybe. And they go, no, just enjoy your time in Huelva, And so I'm thinking, I've got to poke my head around the door and see the screening anyway, because I'm thinking, it's a Spanish-speaking film. It's being shown in Spain. There's going to be an audience for it. And it's a Mexican film about the Highway Patrol. So the main screening of Highway Patrolman starts, and Todd and I are in the lobby, and I stick my head around the corner of the, to look into the auditorium and see who's there and how it's playing. There's one person in the audience. He's somebody that I know, that I went to school with, and he's asleep. And so off we went to enjoy our time in Huelva, which is a beautiful coastal town with great seafood, and we had a really good time.
Oh, man, and what a shame, because Highway Patrolman is such a wonderful, great movie. Now,
but I realized then it's, just like Ronald Reagan said, all the Spanish-speaking countries are different, and just because something is interesting to Mexicans doesn't mean it's of interest to Spaniards or to Chicanos or to Argentinians, or, it's all every culture has its own interests, and the Spanish, at that time at least, weren't very interested in the Mexican cinema.
Now, weren't you, you were also at Venice, now I can't remember if that was for Highway Patrolman or Three Businessmen. I seem to recall you had a almost surreal experience, and I think it was at the Venice Film Festival, where your movie stopped halfway through or something like that. Does that ring a bell?
Oh, that's right. No, that was at Venice, wasn't it? We were showing Searchers 2.0.
Searchers 2.0.
That's right, and it froze in the middle, didn't it? Because they were just getting used to the idea of screening things. I think the next time I was at Venice, they had DCPs, but at this time they wanted you to bring an SR tape, which is very expensive. So you had to bring the film on an SR tape at 25 frames per second, so it would play in the PAL format. And yeah, for some reason, the guy in the projection booth, obviously he fell asleep, and when he fell asleep, his head hit the pause button, And so the movie froze, and it was frozen for about 2 minutes, and the audience started like stamping and chanting and calling out. And I guess then when the shouting woke him up, then he lifted his head off the pause button and the film began again.
Oh my God, these kinds of stories are harrowing, I'm sure, for any would-be filmmaker.
That's from a relatively small festival in Spain to one of like the top 3 festivals in the world. I mean, there's always some technical problem or some unovercomable cultural issue,
Sure. My favorite glitch that I ever experienced at a film festival was when at the Telluride Film Festival they were having a Cinerama presentation, which was amazing because they had to actually line up 3 projectors to, screen the, to get sort of, interlocked together so that they're showing the whole curvature of the eyeball screen vista, in front of you. But they had a problem, but they were ready with in the filmmakers who created that format anticipated that there would be issues every now and then, and so they had a backup 135 millimeter print that was kind of a backup to just kill time, and it was just the person sitting in a chair just like marking the seconds and sort of small chatting and saying, well, it looks like we're having a little bit of a problem, but the projectionists are on it. And it was all, and it was just random, and it really it went on for like 25 minutes, and it was kind of hilarious to see this person just sitting in a chair and just trying to distract you with small talk. But it was charming, and they did get it back, the Cinerama back up and running, and it was a pretty tremendous show. So, but yeah, glitches, it's the nature of the beast, right? So.
They must have changed Cinerama projections, though, at a certain point, because I know when I saw 2001, say, it wasn't 3 different projectors screening 3 different movies.
Oh yeah, no,
in
that
sync.
was
It was like a 70mm print on a Cinerama screen, I imagine.
Right, yeah, right, correct. So we're going to go back to the, we just, unless there was something else, we didn't really talk too much about The Man with the X-Ray Eyes, which I have to say
It's
I
just
do.
a very good film. I think it's a great film. It's a good science fiction story. It's a good moral tale. Ray Milland is, and it really shows you what a very strong actor Ray Milland was. Mind you, if you've seen The Lost Weekend, of course, you already know that.
Now, in your last sentence for the description to The Man with the X-Ray Eyes, you say that it has a splendidly surreal opening shot, 30 seconds of something you don't want to see.
I've forgotten what it was now, so obviously I didn't want to see it and I don't remember it.
That's all right. We'll move on to Jabberwocky, because that's the next one from your very good friend Terry Gilliam.
Yeah, I don't think I ever saw Jabberwocky actually, but it didn't matter because I recited the poem for the introduction.
Oh, okay. I gotcha.
So I don't think I ever saw it.
I've seen Jabberwocky several times. I actually I like it, and one of the things I like about it is the Pythons were very good at showing the squalor of the Middle Ages.
Yes, definitely. As in, not Life of Brian, the other one, the one where they're all groveling in mud. The peasants are endlessly groveling in mud.
Yeah, Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
The Holy Grail, that's right.
Sure, yeah. But no, Jabberwocky's it's a really interesting and and has a lot of moments of authenticity as well as very, very black humor. Someday you'll have to check it out and let me know what you think. But we'll move on to...
I think there might have been some issue with it that we couldn't actually get a hold of a tape of it, and so I said in the end, I'll just do the poem as the intro. Yeah. I think for the illustration, we walked around outside of Tucson. They walked around in this cactus patch and filmed a lot of cactus.
The next one is a film noir from 1949, DOA. Do you remember seeing that one?
Vaguely. I'd have to actually pull out the book. Let me see, where did I put that? DOA. Let's have a look. First season of Moviedrome, huh?
No, this is 1989, so yeah, DOA, first season.
Page 5, okay.
I don't see it in this book.
Edmund O'Brien. DOA made in 1949 is unusual for a cult film because they rarely retain their cult status for more than 40 years. DOA is particularly interesting because, like The Fly, The Blob, or The Thing from Another World, it's recently been remade. And apparently it was remade in 1988 by the creators of Max Headroom. You see, we've already forgotten that. I'd completely forgotten that it was remade. Edmund O'Brien's a star. He was in The Wild Bunch, of course. Oh, I remember the thing about the film. They use one of those awful musical instruments. It's not really even a musical instrument, but it's just a kind of a thing like a recorder with a piece of wood inside it, and you blow into it or suck into it and move the piece of wood, and it goes up and down. It makes an up and down kind of like soda pop noise.
Oh yeah,
a really, really annoying noise, like kids might terrorize each other with, and they use that for the score of the film for some reason. Inexplicable.
Inexplicable indeed.
Yeah. So we're skirting around it because really, DOA hasn't stuck in my memory. I mean,
well, I'm going to go to one that we just screened in my backyard not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago. That's the original The Thing from Another World.
Oh, and that's the film that has a certain degree of controversy because it's credited to Christian Nyby, but many adherents of Howard Hawks say that he really directed it and that Christian Nyby just needed the credit for DGA insurance or something. And it certainly has some Hawksian aspects, doesn't it, in terms of the overlapping dialogue?
Yeah, the dialogue definitely has the fingerprints for Hawks, and I know it's in terms of the directorial credit, it kind of goes back and forth, and there's theories as to how movies were directed back in that day in terms of you know the main scenes were considered the dialogue scenes, and then there were, you know, the scenes that the second AD will, you know, had a little more freedom with. And but anyway, it's we'll let both Christian Nyby and Howard Hawks share credit for that particular film. It's just wonderful. It's still a joy to watch, and nice and short too.
Yeah, nice short film, not too long, and good, very claustrophobic, and set at the North Pole. Yeah.
Now, I know that you sort of go more toward the like the westerns and things like that. But sci-fi, was that something that grabbed your fancy early on?
I mean, I didn't see that many very good science fiction movies. I mean, obviously 2001 is a work of great genius. And then there was that film Icarus XB1, which never played on Moviedrome, but which should have, which predated 2001 in a number of ways. So there were some wonderful science fiction films.
What was that Russian one?
The original War of the Worlds is pretty great.
Well, you turned me on to a Russian one. It was Icarus.
That was Icarus XB1. That was, I think isn't it a Czech film or a Hungarian film?
I can't remember. I think it might have been a Czech one. That was. I love the fact that there's the American, you know, astronauts are like the poker players, of course, the gamblers, right, in their spaceship. And I think you said you thought that the ending for Icarus might have inspired Kubrick for.
Well, they encountered an alien civilization, and there's a star child. So that was all quite similar, wasn't it? I'm sure it's one of the many science fiction films that Kubrick screened in the run-up to 2001 to making it.
Yeah.
Forbidden Planet is a great-looking film. This Island Earth has some great effects in it. But really, I don't think science fiction films ever really achieved their potential. The potential that was unleashed in 2001 then kind of went back in the bottle for some reason.
Yeah. I grew up with them, so I've always got a fond spot for both horror films and science fiction movies. But we'll switch over to, now I'm going to need your help with this one because I've definitely never seen it. California Dolls pops up here. Does that ring a bell?
God, I can barely remember that. That's some schlocky thing, isn't it? I mean, it's definitely the kind of thing they should have shown on Moviedrome. Robert Aldrich directed it.
That's correct.
Peter Falk is in it. It's about, isn't he? He's the coach of a roller derby team. Is that right? Oh no, tag team wrestlers. They're women
wrestling.
wrestlers.
Yeah, so that actually anticipated Glow, which is enjoying its. I think it's out on its second season with maybe a third to come. We'll see. Yeah.
And it's a road movie, and it's designed to entertain people.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with Peter Falk to some extent. I've always enjoyed him.
He's good, Peter Falk.
Yeah. Now,
but again, it's not something that's ever going. I mean, it's not. Again, it's not a film that's ever going to stick in the mind.
Yeah,
it's not like Dead of Night.
Sure. What about the next one that comes up is THX 1138,
and that was George Lucas's first film, wasn't it? It was. I think didn't he remake his student film in the tunnels that were being dug for BART under San Francisco?
Yep. With and it was co-written by not just Lucas, but Walter Murch helped with the script as well.
Oh, interesting. Walter Murch, who was his sound designer and then later became a film editor.
Yeah, I like Walter. I saw Walter Murch up at Telluride, and he's famous for working standing up. I think that's where I first got the idea to, long before standing desks were a fashion. I was working standing up thanks to Walter Murch.
Yeah.
Now, you also work standing up, don't you?
You have a standing up desk that I made.
That's right.
In my pad in Boulder. You have one standing up desk.
I have it proudly leaning against the wall under your Walker poster.
Ah, perfect.
Yeah.
But I have a standing up desk scenario going here. All my computers and machines are at seat level, but we'll see about that. There's going to be some changes made.
Yeah. after THX 1138 comes Stardust Memories.
Again, another film that doesn't really stick in my mind. I mean, I remember Woody Allen, or Woody Allen's in bed with some girl much younger than him, and either he or she says even empty, meaningless sex is better than no sex at all, which was a good line, I guess. But now, maybe it has a certain frisson now, which wasn't intended at the time.
Yeah. How do you feel? How do you feel about the kerfuffle around Woody Allen?
Well, I don't know anything about it personally. I only know what I read in the newspapers, and so I do think it certainly seems, what can I say about it? And what can I add to a very sordid and sad tale?
Well, it's for me.
Particularly sorry for the kids who got dragged through it all.
Sure. But what's interesting for me, since I kind of live, work here on campus, as you know, Ernesto is my boss and your colleague. Ernesto Acevedo Munoz is a big fan of Woody Allen, and he would like to teach a class on Woody Allen. But he's, in the age of me, hashtag Me Too. He's having some second thoughts, and that made me think about you and the teaching that Westerns class and whether or not you could include
whether you could show
films.
The Wild Bunch or certain other very sexist cowboy films. Yeah, I mean, and I think that's a good point, because you have to actually be aware of people's sensitivities. I know that's an outrageous thing to say if you're an old punk rocker and stuff, but especially, my God, these students' parents are paying for their education, and it's really expensive, and you can introduce them to all kinds of interesting, bizarre, and subversive stuff. But I think if you have a course that says kind of like, for example, red pedophile cinema, that's not going to go down really well, and so you kind of have to
sure.
More subtly, it's just like being in the movie business, isn't it, really? Being in academia, being in the movie business, you have to kind of tailor what it is you're trying to do to the financier so that they will go for it, not realizing what they've unleashed.
I think I'm gonna sort of put I think this might be a good end point, but and only because I'm about to run out of juice on my phone, but I'm curious how things are going with you on your end. Do you feel comfortable talking about the latest projects that you've got that you're working on? Or?
I'm still pursuing this Billy the Kid thing. The Billy the Kid thing might turn into a series. I'm not sure. I'm hoping to get it into some kind of developed shape. But whether it takes place in 1872 or whether it takes place in 2045, I'm not entirely clear. I'll know soon. And then there's the perennial Repo Man 2, which I've had the rights for Repo Man sequels and remakes reverted to me 6 months ago, and I still haven't got the money to make it, so that's pretty lax of me. So I'm going to have to redouble my efforts.
Are there some, do you at least, are you floating it out there, or are you getting some nibbles?
The issue is that I only have US rights. The foreign rights have not reverted to me, so I'm in a situation where I have to find a partner who will go for just US distribution and aim to recoup from that. And then later we'll sell it to Universal for an enormous amount of money.
No, would you consider working? I know you've had some bad experiences with Universal, but would you consider working with them again?
I love Universal just as I love Amazon and Microsoft and NBC and the Democratic Party and all these massive corporations. They're just wonderful, and I delightedly look forward to renewing my engagement with them all.
I just don't think I'll ever see Alex Cox on Facebook for some reason.
Facebook is my favorite, and the Twitter, man. I'm on the Twitter all the time these days. Which one is that?
Yeah, right. That's the day hell freezes over. That's when I know everything's come shattering around me. So, no, for now I know that the only way we can get a hold of you is by phone, as we are doing right now, and or driving directly up to your.
You drive to the forest
place,
or I drive out there.
Yeah.
Hey, well, thank you for another lovely time,
Alex. Thanks for joining us, and tell Todd I said hi, and
I
we'll
will.
touch base again soon.
Thank you very much, Jason.
Yep. All right. We're
Must
calling
be
it.
more.
Enjoy the rest of your porter.
Thank you. I've just finished it.
Whoa, you're ahead of me.
Huh?
Bam. All right. I got to catch up.
Bye.
I'll talk to you later. Ciao.
And cut. Okay, that's a wrap.
Thanks again for joining Alex Cox and myself today. I'd like to thank Jason Phelps for handling the audio and Ted Thacker for letting us use the intro to his song, The Ballad of Slim Cessna, for the musical cues that bookend these conversations. Don't forget to go out there and watch movies in a larger-than-home venue. It's what brings us all together to see movies the way they were meant to be seen, on the big screen, as we sit next to strangers, neighbors, and friends.